Representative Christensen. Was it about his bill?
Yes, we're working very hard on a very complicated issue, and we want to get it right. And so there's going to be a statement said, because I think his statement goes to the heart of what we're trying to do here, find a very even-handed and balanced approach.
Looked rather heated. He looked like he was pretty upset.
No, you know what? It's sometimes
again, this is us what we're viewing in the fish tank.
Sometimes my intensity can be misinterpreted as anger, and it's not. I get passionate about things, and that's just that's the kind of person that I am. And it doesn't mean that I'm angry at all. It means that I get intense or passionate about issues, and certainly Representative Christensen is as well. But we are this is what I love about the House. We are very close. We feel like family, and we can have very good and constructive conversations, but we can also be passionate in what we share. So it was good. There was no ill will to be found anywhere.
Any movement on that bill though? Anything, or is it's still in rules, but is it going anywhere?
You know, there is a large effort going forward, and that bill is part of the work and the dialogue that's happening in this session regarding that issue.
House floor got a little intense today, I would say,
Yes.
compared to a 50-yard field goal in overtime.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a bill play out like that? And walk us through the process and what was going on?
So you need a constitutional majority to pass a bill, which means you need 38 affirmative votes for any bill, even if only 38 people are on the floor. If you want that bill to pass, you would need everyone that's standing on the floor to vote that way, because it's not a majority of who's in the room. So if you are hovering at a number that is not the constitutional majority of 38, and you see that there are people missing from the floor, that if they were on the floor would decide the bill either way, 38 against or not, 38 for, there is a procedure where you can ask for a call to House. And if 10 members or more, when that motion is made, stand, then there is a call to House, and the sergeant of arms go and locate every single member and bring them to the floor to vote. And we do not have anywhere in our statute the ability to pass. Some legislatures you can pass. You don't have to vote. Here in Utah, every member has to vote. If they're on the floor and the vote is open, you have to vote. So a call to House was issued. We had 2 excused absences, and I'll tell you, if necessary, you can go leave that vote open and send the Highway Patrol to find them if that's what you'd like to do. But usually what happens is enough people arrive, and once somebody has achieved either killing the bill or passing the bill by that golden number of 38, then there's a motion to lift the call of the House. So we had that bill, and it took some time to get everyone there that wasn't an excused absence, and it did eventually pass. So that happens a couple times. That's not completely unheard of. But it probably happens maybe a few times a year.
Get a half dozen calls at the House each year.
Yeah, half dozen, but sometimes they end fast because people just start moving in, and people will move in one direction or another. And the other thing is, and our parliamentarian will mention this tomorrow, you're not allowed to lobby on the floor. You're not supposed to be trying to convince someone on the floor. You can ask questions or clarify, but you're not supposed to be lobbying your colleagues on the floor of the House, or the minority leader to the speaker on the dais. You can't do that either. I just a random example. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Was there some lobbying going on? Because there was one vote that changed, right?
Well, you know, and it's your prerogative to.
More than one?
Well, it's your prerogative to you can change your vote. I had locked it so that we could kind of get people. I told everyone, get where you want to be. I want to lock the vote so that the only ones we're now fighting for are the ones that are left to come in.
So you didn't want people using.
Well, you could do that for a while. But we had been in a call
Yeah.
for a while, and I just felt like, you know what, you gotta get where you need to be. I don't want this to keep ebbing and flowing on the floor if you voted, and now we're just waiting for the last members to arrive.
Do you like lock a vote in that kind of situation? I'm not familiar with locking the vote. Is that something that
Yeah, it's a button. And,
happens very often though?
No, it happens. I think it's when a vote has become prolonged, and you're trying to get to the end of this, and you're trying to get, and that's usually when you're your bell's been ringing for over 5 minutes, you're going into 10 minutes, you're trying to get.
It almost always happens when it's that long.
So you keep people from playing games with the board?
And it's, so lobbying, I'm sitting up there, I can't hear, but I could see some people, speaking and things, so, but, yeah, you're not supposed to be lobbying your colleagues on the floor.
But was that going on?
I
Or do
can't.
you believe that was going on?
I think that there may have been seen, don't know for sure.
So when you say can't,
No, it's a rule. Look, there's a rule that you're supposed to ask and answer questions through the speaker, not look at the colleague and talk to them. People violate that rule as well, and so that's when the parliamentarian. It's the Mason Rules of Order, and there's just we have rules of decorum and things like that. So it's not illegal. It's a breach of our protocol.
Just to know, which is why you locked the vote. So
Mhm.
is that why you locked the vote then?
No, it was really to get to the end of the call. That's why I did it, to get to we had some people still. I think we had 2 or 3 that had not yet. Was it 4? That had not been on the floor, and I just wanted us to be. That would be it. When they got on, we could get this thing closed and we could move.
Were you surprised by the outcome today?
I was. I've told you guys before. I don't understand the debate on how we execute people. I think if we want to have a debate on whether a state has capital punishment, I could see that vote being like the one we saw on the floor today. But it escapes me, and this is where being a speaker where I can't speak to a bill, I notice. But it escapes me that we're having such a prolonged debate on the niceties of, or what doesn't offend our senses about capital punishment. It goes back to that Edith Bunker quote that I've given. I'm for the death penalty so long as it's not too violent. Is someone going to put an alcohol swab on your arm before you administer a lethal injection? I just don't know what we're talking about. When we're worried about the firing squad as opposed to electrocution or what? I just think there's a debate upstream to have about whether you have capital punishment. But when you talk about the way you're doing it, if it's offensive to people to think about, well then think about what you're doing. That's my issue. So I just don't get it. I was the lone vote in 2004 against banning the firing squad for the same reason.
Do you think it's going to pass over in the Senate? They seemed surprised that it was coming over today.
No, I don't see the controversy in it. There has been some accidents that occurred last year with lethal injection where people suffered unnecessarily. It did not do the job it was supposed to do. There's been a debate about whether capital punishment should be swift and should be as painless as possible. And the firing squad has been identified, if you talk to the bill sponsor, as a way to be efficient and to bring the least amount of pain to a person as possible. And so I thought that was the discussion that I paid the closest attention to as I was listening to the bill myself.
do you think opponents are using the emotion to distract from the point that you bring up here?
Well, yeah, I'll tell you this, and I don't know if this is the case, but I have heard that in France, a long, long time ago, they stopped using the guillotine when photography was invented. When photography could capture those images and people began to see broadly what it was that they were doing, they stopped doing it. So, you know what? I think that anything that hides or softens or makes us feel somehow better about it, you're missing the conversation. You're missing the real issue. So.
Senator DeBackus said, and maybe it was a little tongue in cheek, but he said, he's opposed to the death penalty, doesn't like this bill, but if we're going to do it, live stream it so everyone can see it. If it's really a deterrent.
He got that idea from me.
I wonder though. I mean, in all seriousness, is that something you would agree with? That maybe everyone should see this?
So.
Are you going to agree with Senator DeBackus?
Yes, that's like political suicide. Agree with Senator DeBackus. So the two of us have actually spoke about this. And I'm not kidding when I say he just stole my idea. But no, that's not my idea. It takes some context to explain that. So if you were to say that we should just live stream this, I think it gets to the point you just made, that people they miss what you're saying. They think you're advocating the most brutal form or that you're celebrating this. I think that there should be an awareness by the public of what we're doing. And so I wouldn't argue with Senator Backus, but you can make it his idea, not mine.
The Senate got a letter from the Count My Vote people today, signed by former Governor Levin and others involved with that effort, basically saying, look, we see these bills are out there, and if they advance, know that we're going back to the public on this issue. I'm just wondering, do you expect as a House to see bills changing the deal that was made in SB 54 at this point?
I think until they send us a letter, we probably won't have a comment on that. If they want to talk to the House, they can talk to the House.
You
But
didn't
does
get
the
one?
House expect to have to deal with it?
I haven't seen a letter.
As I understand, it just went to the Senate because the bills are sitting on there on the board. But do you expect to have to deal with it? Do you think the Senate will not advance this?
So we haven't seen the letter. I don't know what the context of the letter is, Lisa. This is a topic of discussion, and I think until we see what these Senate bills do, which I think is where not all, but many of them are coming from, we probably don't have a lot to talk about there. I will say this. It was a difficult issue last year. The legislature, I think, understood what it was doing. And there may be some unintended consequences that we need to look at, but we've already visited this issue once. Any comments, speaker, beyond that?
Is there any reason to go back on that compromise and either push it off or alter it in any way?
So there's probably some technical issues in terms of the implementation that needs to be addressed.
HB 332.
Got all kinds of, it's exciting. So is it this, was that TV?
It must be a TV. There's two remotes over there. There's a bigger one.
It's okay, it's kind of like stereo.
I'll tell you this, by way of process, there was a compromise. I think we spent a lot of time in caucus discussing the compromise last year. But be aware that this is a new general session, newly elected members. I think that if you voted against the bill last year, or if you're a new member and you never had the bill in front of you, or the issue in front of you, you are free to vote your conscience or access the process any way you'd like. And, but for those that compromised on this, I don't know that circumstances have changed that would change that compromise. I will say that when that compromise was reached, there was conversation about what they call plurality, meaning if you had 10 people get signatures and qualify for a ballot to be on a primary, do you want to do what we see in Nevada and have someone who gets a very low percentage of the vote of the people receive the nomination because they got the highest number, but amongst 10 people, that number was like 10%. Should 10% qualify you if you had that many people? So everybody agreed last year that that is an issue that could be revisited and should be visited this year. And I don't think any bills that would look at how to narrow it down to two would be out of the construct of that compromise. And then the other issue is the Republican Party is seeking a court decision on whether what the legislature did was constitutional. And if a judge were to determine that the bill we passed wasn't constitutional, kind of like we've seen a judge do to the state school board elections, said that wasn't the way to do it. So we're revisiting how we elect our state school board members. Well, if that happens, I think that you better come into a special session because I don't think we'll know anything like that now. But you don't want to be making those rules after the game started. You don't want to wait till we're back in the session next year because these election cycles begin. We are in the event. You don't want to be making the rules once the game has started. So if there is a ruling that would interrupt that bill or its compromise, then I think we would have to come in here and we have to visit that issue with new information.
So the plurality issue, I've heard two proposals that might address that. One is kick it back to the delegates, or have a runoff election Louisiana style, and that's gonna cost extra money, I guess. I mean, are either of those satisfactory options to you?
Well, you need an option, so I would prefer something rather than nothing. But what that would be, Robert, at this point, I couldn't tell you. I don't know what's going to gain the most traction in our body.
Do you think it'll be dealt with though this session? Plurality, because it seems like just opening it up at this
I
point.
hope so.
seems
I
like a lot of
really do.
trouble.
I don't want to see large numbers of people gathering enough signatures to qualify and seeing a crowded primary in a district. I mean, we talk about voter participation and the numbers already. It's going to take a while if we think that if we'd like to see a higher voter turnout, I don't think that magically happens in one election cycle. So I think we're going to start low and we're going to build if as more and more people engage. So you're first out the gate with this new signature process. The low numbers in a legislative district that could determine the nominee to me is just kind of scary.
But you don't have 10 people necessarily filing to run for an office now, or even 5. Rarely do you have 4. I mean, it's. Do we think that there's going to be that many more people who are going to go through the process instead of just going down and paying the filing fee and going out?
Well, and you've never had a signature gathering mechanism to get on the ballot before either, so it's hard to measure. But I will tell you this: in many states where signature gathering is a mechanism to get on the ballot, companies start up, and you can pay companies to get you your signatures, and you pay so much per signature. And I call it the campaign and elections industrial complex. And one of the things you do when you have a bill that allows for signature gathering is you have companies that will tell you, you pay me X amount for the amount of signatures I need and I'll get you on the ballot. Once that becomes a financial decision versus a caucus, convention cycle, or any of those things, the idea that you'll have more than 2 people file, I think it's possible.
If you also look,
Last
Robert, when seats are open, you do have a lot of people running already. How many people ran for Senator Valentine's spot? It was in that range of half a dozen or so, I believe. So open seats, we do have a lot of people running in it. This may increase that number.
Is there any reason to think that the Senate bill or a similar proposal over here to delay the implementation of that is going to go anywhere, given the concerns that you're raising about dealing with plurality and the pending lawsuit? The delay until.
I don't think so. I honestly think that for us to revisit that compromise, unless people that had voted against and people that have never had an opportunity to decide it were able to find a majority, but if you're asking me, there aren't any circumstances that have changed that would bring me to vote differently than I have before. But I believe with that I can vote on an issue or a bill that addresses plurality. But if a judge were to change what it is that we compromised on, then I think that you have to, it's new information and new circumstances.
Okay, thanks guys.
Thank you.